Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another All the WrestleManias. I'm your co-host, Tim Hackman,
And I'm Rich Sigwald.
and we're happy to be back in the studio with you today. Happy to talk a little bit about some wrestling news and updates and talk about two specials this time. We're calling this a bit of a wrestling grab bag episode. So it's a little departure from our usual format where we look at one event and kind of stick with that. We've got three different things that we want to chat with you about today. So right from the top, I think we'll dive right into the first thing, and that was on Sunday, May 15th. Rich and I had a chance to attend CelebFest 4 here in Millersville, Maryland, which is a little bit south of Baltimore. It was billed as CelebFest Baltimore, but it's not really that close to Baltimore. And it was a event sponsored by Maryland Championship Wrestling, MCW, and they had a ton of pro wrestling stars of past and present, AEW folks. Britt Baker, Sting was one of the big draws. The Hardy brothers were another big draw. So we just thought we'd talk a little bit about our experience there, and I think we both had a really good time. I don't know if either of us knew quite what to expect for this kind of thing. Had you ever been to this kind of event before, Rich?
No, so I've been to like a wrestling show that also had some famous wrestlers at it that was going to have like a couple people doing signings, but nothing to where like the entire room is just filled with well-known wrestlers and sitting at tables and you go to them to get signatures and photos and stuff like that.
Yeah, same here. I had gone to a show at a at like a junior high gym actually in Hagerstown in probably 99 or 2000 or so, and they had the card. The local, it was the local Hagerstown wrestling school there was doing the show, but King Kong Bundy was there and Georgie Animal Steel, and I feel like one of the Freebirds maybe was also there. So those guys were there to do autographs, and they put in a little bit of work, but that was not the main. It was to sell a few extra tickets, but it wasn't the main thing.
There was going to be a wrestling show after this there, and I think the Hardy Boys were going to fight in it, but I think they were the only ones that were doing the double duty. So I don't think like Thunder Rosa was going to throw down in the Benfield Sports Arena in Millersville. That was not adequately air conditioned for this event whatsoever.
Oh my God, it was so hot. There were a ton of people at this thing. It's not a huge venue, but the line was out to the street. It's sort of in a weird place, kind of between the highway and an office park. I'd never actually been there before. I've lived in this area for going on 20 years.
The office that we went to for the closing on our house is like right next to it. Actually, it was like,
That's
oh,
funny.
I've been here before, and
That's
this is
funny.
where I came to buy a house.
Yeah, and the sports thing sort of shares like the same block with I don't know what it was in there. It was like a DUI attorney, or I don't know what else was in there, or some other things. So
Yeah, it was an interesting little location here, but
so I know I had some folks I was definitely primarily there to see. Who was top on your list?
well, I bought advanced photo op tickets for both Sting and for Jake the Snake Roberts, and that was mainly because I had to be in Towson, which is on the other side of Baltimore, by 3:15, and I didn't want to like also miss out on seeing them. And Sting wasn't going to show up until 1 o'clock, so that gave me a very short window, and I knew he was going to be a big draw. So I bought advance tickets for him with a fast pass, so I got to be in the special line to go fast. and I got Jake the Snake, but Jake the Snake didn't have as much of a line as I expected, and so I was able to just like walk right up, get my photo with him, get him to sign one of our awesome little business cards, and have a little chat with him briefly, and that was very cool. Sting, on the other hand, his line was wrapped around the building, basically went from wall to wall. So I was very happy that I got in the fast pass line, and they gave me a little bit of a hassle because they had this weird system where you had to take your mobile ticket to a table to get another ticket to give them, and they didn't give me that ticket when I went to the table. And the guy gave me a bit of a hassle, but eventually just let me get my photo with Sting and move on with life, because I wasn't like trying to get signatures or anything. It was like, literally let me stand next to the icon, get my photo, and I will leave.
It's not like you're going to ask him to co-sign a mortgage or anything. Just taking literally 30 seconds of his time.
Right. Like I'm not serving him papers. Yeah.
Well, that'd be a funny way to do that if you had to just buy a ticket and step right up. Oh, you Sting? You've been served. Yeah, I was actually pleasantly surprised by how well, especially once the lines formed for Sting and the Hardy Boys, that was probably like 80% of the people in attendance. And you could basically float
Yeah,
around to all the other tables and talk to folks. I mean, kind of at length. Like some of them were, more interested in chatting than others. So the big one for me, so I had two that were really top of my list. One was Greg the Hammer Valentine, and the other, of course, being Tito Santana, both of whom we've talked about quite a bit on this show. Both of whom, I really respect as performers, as guys who've been around and done a lot of stuff, and just, always just a real pleasure to watch. Unfortunately, Tito didn't show. Apparently, one of the organizers told us he got a text from him and something was going on with his knee, and so he didn't want to make the drive down from Jersey. So that was kind of disappointing, but I'll hopefully be able to catch him at another thing. Greg Valentine was like right there. I walked in, so I didn't have a fast pass, so I didn't have to get in like the second special line. So once I came in the front door, basically the guy's like, if you don't need the second pass, the second wristband, you can go on through. So I just breezed on through, and Greg's just hanging out, and like I'm gonna just walk up and talking to Greg Valentine, and so he was a little cranky. He seemed a little befuddled, honestly, because he was there by himself. He didn't have like a management company or something handling the tickets and the sales. So he was like managing his own cash and all this stuff. But I kind of talked to him a little bit about some of the things that we've been really enjoying. I talked to him a little bit about him and the steel cage against Tito on that WWF Grudge Matches compilation that's on the Peacock. Talked about that front bump of his where he like used to just fall over like a big tree, and he kind of like
right.
chuckled a little bit about that. And he kind of like loosened up a little bit. He's like, "Oh yeah," he's like, that one used to give me headaches." So, um, so that was really cool. I took a picture with him with the Intercontinental belt, which he still has, which is very cool. I bought an autograph. I asked him, he had a bunch of different pictures. I asked him which one was his favorite. And the one that he pointed out was from 75 from LA when he won the NWA America's, what was it? The America's Heavyweight Championship belt, something along those lines. And he's just a bloody mess in that picture. So that was very cool.
It is a photo of Greg the Hammer Valentine winning the NWA America's Heavyweight Championship while working with the NWA Hollywood Wrestling Promotion. Yeah, I was surprised too, like you said, that like Sting and the Hardys and like Britt Baker kind of just like pulled 85% of the crowd into standing in line the whole time. And so it was really cool. I got to walk up and talk to Rikishi a little bit, got an autograph from and photo with Rikishi, met um, Nick Aldis. Nick Aldis didn't have much of a line, even though the dude is awesome and super cool. He was kind of funny because he was like, "Well, which one of my photos do you want, mate?" And I was like, "I'll take this one here with the championship belt." He's like, "Ah, you like the dirty, handsome one."
That's awesome.
So he was super cool, and like he also came out from behind the table to get the photo with and
Oh,
stuff like
nice.
that, and shook hands, and um, we both met Dante Martin. That was cool, and we met Powerhouse
Yeah,
Hobbs.
Dante was super nice. He was like, he seemed, I mean, he seemed, such a young guy. I think he's maybe still a little bit, humbled by all of it,
Yeah,
right? Like, so I was telling him, how much we really like his work and how much, that we had been in the crowd for that Dynamite show in Baltimore a couple weeks back, and how we thought he and Ray Phoenix had the match of the night. He was like, "Oh, thanks, man, thanks." And I was like, so that was cool. I told him that he was my wife's favorite, but I don't take that personally. I mean, he's a handsome guy. What are you gonna
yeah,
do?
and he probably got freaked out because I said the exact same thing to him, minus the wife thing, and like we were both
Yeah.
wearing the same shirt and stuff like that. It's like, wait a minute, like two guys just came up to me, told me that they were at the Baltimore show wearing the same shirt, and they both liked the Ray Phoenix match, and that threw. I'd imagine that confused them a little bit.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, again, I was really surprised. Like Rikishi, I thought Rikishi would be a much bigger deal, but he was just hanging out in the corner. He was like wearing a tracksuit and a little like Kangol hat and his sunglasses. He was just
Yeah,
chilling. I was really excited to see Haku. He was
yeah,
in the other far corner, He looks fantastic. Like he's very, very soft spoken, very humble guy. He shook my hand like 3, 4 times. With COVID and stuff, I didn't know. I kind of tried to give people space, and I had my mask, but then I was taking it off a little bit when I was talking to the actual wrestlers because I don't know, it's just a little personal. But he's like, he would come back behind the table with him and shook my hand a couple times, and I told him again that we've been watching some of these old matches that we really really liked his super kick. He used to lay right up under guys' chins and knock them out, and also that that he would always be the king. So I bought the picture of him in the purple robe and crown. So very very nice guy. I also met let's see, Brett Azar, who plays the
Yes.
Iron Sheik on Young Rock. He was a trip. He's got more muscles than I think there are muscles.
He might have been
Um,
the most physically fit person there, and we're in a room of professional
Jesus,
wrestlers. Like,
yeah.
that guy was a monster.
Yeah, he was huge. He was super nice. He talked a little bit about. I was going to tell you this story actually. So I asked him. I said, "Did you talk to the real Sheik at all? And getting ready to play this role." He's like, "Well, I FaceTimed a little bit, but he didn't really know what was going on." And so he said, "He's like, I told him, I'm going to be on this show and I'm going to play you." He's like, "Oh, you want me to do a show? How much you pay me?" And he was trying to tell him, he's like, "Oh, no, 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 I'm going out to California. I'm going." I was like, "Okay, California, I come. How much you pay me?"
Nice.
He's like, "No, you're gonna stay there. I'm gonna go." Yeah, apparently it was a little bit of a communication breakdown, but that was
The
cute.
Sheik is always the Sheik. It's not really
Yeah,
a gimmick with him.
yeah. And Brett Azar is doing the voice that he does on the show, which was fantastic. So, and then I took 2 steps to my right, and then there's freaking the Gun Club,
Yeah.
Billy Gunn's kids, the Ass Boys, and they're again just hanging out. Like, so I talked to them a little bit. I asked them what it was like working with their dad. Again, very. It was a much nicer experience than I thought. I thought it would be a lot more like, get your signature, get out of my face. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like, give me your money, and it was much more interactive and stuff than I
Yeah,
anticipated.
I kinda wanted it to be a bit more organized. That was the my only
Yeah,
thing, but I also know that, like, what really was happening here was that specific sponsors of MCW were paying these wrestling guys to be there, and so it would be really hard for them to have a central kinda thing, but it would have been nice somehow for them to have a Zoom call at some point, figure out the table layouts, and
yeah,
just put down on like a little map of who's at what tables, where the bathrooms are, and like run off 500 copies of that and hand that out as people came in the door or something.
yeah. Because I was looking desperately for Tito, and again, it wasn't a huge place, so I must have circled it like 20 times, like just thinking maybe I had missed him. And I stop and ask this staff person, and they're like, "Oh, we don't know." And I asked the guy at the front door. He's like, "Yeah, I haven't seen that dude." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't really tell me much. Like, do you know what he looks like? Like, are you familiar with Tito Santana? And then finally, that one organizer, I don't know why that guy even came up and talked to us about it. We're just standing there shooting the shit, and he's just like, "Yeah, Tito Santana texted me." I'm like, "Is this just something you're going around telling people?" Like, like I didn't even know what
And
to
my
think.
friend Mike, I think, knows him, and so he might have recognized him, and that's why he came over to talk to us. Because our friend Mike, who is a recent beginning to listen to us, mentioned had told me a bit of a story about him, but I don't want to be airing stories here. So yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun, and I mean the coolest part for me, and I'm still talking about it to myself in my head really because my wife doesn't want to hear me to talk about them really anymore, is that we met Demolition, which
Hell
was
yeah,
pretty much my favorite tag team along with the Hart Foundation back in the day. So it was really cool to meet them. And what was amazing about meeting them really was that they had no line and they're just chilling there and they're there for like a lawyer, like this law firm had bought the
yeah.
table and hired Demolition to come to sit there. And So the law firm gives me like a goodie bag basically, and that I use to put all my autographs in for the day. But like it also has like pens and keychains and candy in it to try to get me to hire this law firm. Um, and like the dude that was working there, I think worked for the law firm, and he was super chill about things. So like I had purchased only one autograph of for Demolition, but they signed the photo, the promotional photo, which the one I chose was them holding the WWF Tag Team Championship belts. But then they just agreed to give me another free signature on one of our business cards. And when they saw the business card and the business card matched my shirt, they're like, "Oh, so what's this shirt? What's this business card about?" And I mentioned our podcast, and I told them our website, and he was like, "Well, what do you guys do on your podcast?" And I told him very simply, my friend Tim and I, we watch wrestling, and then on like Friday afternoons, we sit down and talk about it for 2 hours and post it. And he's like, "What kind of old wrestling?" I was like, "Well, title is all the WrestleManias, so we've been working our way through the WrestleManias." And I was like, "That sounds really cool. Can I have another one of your business cards?" And so I give him the card, and then I give that was Smash that initially asked for the card, I think, and then Axe was like, "Hey, can I get one of those too?" So I
Yeah.
gave him a card.
He was actually leaning over doing something else when you handed the card to Smash, and he like perked up. He's like, "Oh, give me one of those
Yeah,
too." That was great. And around about that time, I had walked up, and he's like, "Oh, here comes your buddy," because we're obviously wearing the same shirt, like a bunch of dorks. So we were just chatting with him a little bit. And he's like, "Oh yeah," he was just telling us about the podcast, and I was like, "Yeah, we were just watching you guys." I realized I fucked up. I told him that we watched them against Tenryu and
Katao. Yeah,
Katao, but that was Crush in that match,
yeah.
not Axe. Oh well. And I also told him that that they had scared the crap out of me when I was a kid, like with the spikes and the hoods and all that stuff. They got a kick out of that. So yeah, they were super nice guys. Honestly, I enjoyed chatting
Yeah,
with them.
it was probably the highlight of that event. And then like my friend Mike was with me, and he like couldn't believe that like Demolition is just sitting there like talking away with us, just like no problem. There's
Yeah.
nobody like behind us in line or anything, so they didn't care. And we just shot the shit with them for like 15 minutes. It was great, and they were super nice.
You and I talked a little bit about this after the fact, and we went looking for some Demolition stuff. And this is a good segue, actually. We're going to be recording an episode. I think there's a Demolition sort of. I think it's like one of those Coliseum home video, compilation tapes on the Peacock, and we both gave that a watch, and it's incredible. Like there's some really quality matches on there against an absolutely stacked tag team division at the time, and those guys were huge. Like it's hard to remember just how over they were. But there was a period from say 89 to I want to say 92, 93 when they were just like absolutely unstoppable. First as heels, and then when they broke up with Mr. Fuji, then they came back as faces. And watching those old matches, I sort of have a fresh respect for, the work that they did in the ring and just again, just how big a deal they were back then.
They were incredibly over as heels and as faces, and it's really a spectacular thing. It's a phenomenon that you don't see a lot with wrestlers. I mean, the only ones that I can think of that are coming to mind are the Road Warriors that were that popular in that kind of style. And we know that Demolition was done for once the Road Warriors actually signed with WWF, and that was kind of the beginning of the end for Demolition, sadly.
I think though, because their reign was huge, but it was also relatively short, 3-4 years. It's quite possible that, a lot of the folks, on either side of our age bracket they may have missed it. You know what I mean? Like it was kind of over. So
Yeah, they
anyway,
kind of get overlooked. I do feel that way. Like they get overlooked, and we can get into this when we actually record the episode. But I mean, they're not in the WWF Hall of Fame, even though they are
boo.
the longest reigning tag champions in WWF history. It's a travesty, honestly. And because
Yeah.
they've been eligible to be in the Hall of Fame for so long, and they're still not there.
So yeah, let's not get too far down that road. We are going to do that special episode. I think you had mentioned we even had a request to do a demolition episode,
Yeah.
which kind of
Yeah, my
fortuitous.
brother-in-law, Brett in Delaware had asked us to talk about Demolition. And I was like, well, funny you should mention that. We just met Demolition. They were super cool. And it really got our juices flowing and thinking about them. So we're going to probably talk about them at some point in the near future.
And Demolition, if you guys are listening, you come on the show anytime. If you think those business cards are cool, wait till you actually talk to us.
Yeah, we're far less awkward on the air than what we are in person when we
Yeah.
talk to have to look at people.
So I'll make a segue here. One of the things that I said to Smash, Barry Darso was, I said, boy, they sure don't do it like you guys used to do it. And he's like, yeah, you got that right. Which was kind of a cool exchange. So speaking of not doing it the way they used to do it, I think the next thing in our grab bag here is to talk about WrestleMania Backlash. And I think we feel a little bit compelled to do this because it's sort of like the third night of WrestleMania.
It's WrestleMania Rewind, really. It's not even a third night. It's like, let's do WrestleMania again.
Yeah, let's redo some of these matches that we fucked up the first time around. I don't know. So that was from May 8th, 2022. It's a relatively short card, and I don't think we're going to have a whole lot to talk about, but just wanted to kind of hit some of the highlights and maybe lowlights. And obviously, if you watched it, you have your own comments and thoughts, you can always, tweet us at WrestleMania Pod, shoot us an email at allthewrestlemanias@gmail.com, find us on the website, allthewrestlemanias.com. We always like to get your input on this stuff.
Yeah, first thing I want to say about Backlash, I'm just going to throw this out there, is that it has almost the same card. I mean, a large portion of this card is the same, and they finished the show in under 3 hours.
So it's possible.
Why does WrestleMania need 2 nights?
Yeah.
Good God.
And this definitely moves along much better than WrestleMania.
A freight train going across country fully loaded moves along better than WrestleMania.
Uh, um, so I think the big attraction for me was the rematch for Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins, which started the show. I think we both sort of enjoyed that match from WrestleMania, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, I mean, because it just looks so different than everything else that WWE does. And I don't know really why they chose to have that match again. I mean, it doesn't feel like it does anything to help forward Cody in this march of righting the wrongs of his father never winning the WWF Championship. So I mean, that's the overall angle that they're shooting for, right? Is right.
Yeah,
At least that's what the interwebs has told me, and what I got the sense of the little bit of WWF or WWE. Sorry, we've been watching too much old school stuff. It's got me saying WWF again. WWE programming I have inhaled.
yeah, and he's cut a bunch of different promos on Monday Night Raw, which I know you don't watch, and I only sort of watch. The only reason I've seen him is because he's been sort of starting the show most of the time. So I watch him for the first 10, 15
Ugh,
minutes, and then by then my attention
that
starts to
sounds
drift. I'm like,
exhausting.
well, maybe I'll go watch some Glue Dry. Um,
I'm gonna go paint my shed and watch it dry. And then why did they have this match again? I thought this match was sloppy again. It's the garbage do too much style that Cody loves to seemingly do, which I mean is kind of fun to see because nobody else is doing this in WWE. But
yeah, it's one of the few things that looks like wrestling.
right,
I don't know how to describe it except that because the other stuff that's going on in the show is kind of not wrestling anymore. It's something else. And we were talking a little bit about how sterile
yeah,
the show scenes, how it's so polished and colorful and high gloss that it's it's more like a cartoon than any kind of even sports entertainment is pushing it, you
yeah,
know?
it's kind of like how art exists in the flaws, but there's no flaws in this because there's no risks, there's no accidents really, except for occasionally when you drop Big E on his head or something like that. There's no suspense. There's nothing to lock your eye onto just because it's just so clean, polished, and
Yeah,
it's not even like PG anymore. It's G. It's for general audiences, and
right.
it's just And it moves at a snail's pace, just because, like, here we are, we're at a pay-per-view a month and a half after WrestleMania, and 3/4 of the card is exactly the same.
Yeah. Well, and I had the misfortune to tune into Raw this week, and you'll never guess what the main event on this coming Friday's SmackDown is going to be. It involves RKO and the Usos.
Oh
Just
God!
right. So how many freaking times can the same 4, 5, 6 guys wrestle and still not have their disputes settled? Right. Like it really starts to seem like they don't have anybody else and don't know what to do with the people that they have. Yeah, Cody versus Seth, whatever. The next match was Omos with MVP versus Bobby Lashley. There's still an element of interest here just because Omos is such a genetic
Yeah,
anomaly,
and
right?
their WrestleMania match was okay. I enjoyed it. This match was not okay. This match was terrible.
It was really bad.
Omos telegraphs all of his misses. He very clearly runs slower when Bobby Lashley is going to move and he runs into the turnbuckle. He moves slower. And you can, because he's bigger, his like preemptive like preparations for taking a bump is magnified. So I think that's part of it. But like you can see him, he runs at a different pace and a different gait when he's going to miss.
Yeah, he takes like these awkward half steps.
Yeah.
He needs to go back to wrestling school. Like I know that Vince loves his giants, right? And he's an intimidating dude. I think he could be a really good talent. And the talking that he's done that I've heard has been decent. He's got kind of a deep, scary voice. He needs to go to wrestling school.
And Bobby Lashley is better than this.
Bobby Lashley's better than almost anything else on this card, honestly, with the exception of maybe of Charlotte Flair.
I like AJ
Yeah.
Styles
Oh, yeah.
too. I think AJ is my favorite
Yeah.
on the WWE roster on the men's side at least. But he's stuck in this edge bullshit. So
Yeah. Well, just real quick before we move on, the top of the show on this week's Monday Night Raw was Omos and Bobby Lashley in a cage to start the show.
So
The
they
first
put
one.
a cage match on free television and not at
Yep.
the pay-per-view.
Top of the show. 8 p.m. to 8:20 p.m. or so, and it ended when Omos threw Bobby into the side of the cage, and the side of the cage broke away, and Bobby landed on the floor with both feet, thus making him the winner.
Wow.
Yeah. Also, some guy interfered, and I had no idea who it was. I thought maybe it was one of the New Day guys at first, and then I I still don't know who it was actually. So Edge and AJ, I don't know. AJ is really talented. I agree. Edge is still boring as fuck. I don't care. I'm tired
He
of his
looks
face.
gaunt.
He needs to eat a sandwich.
Oh my gosh.
Now he's House of Black Edge.
There was several things with this match that just Styles takes an amazingly rough bump when he gets catapulted into the corner outside of the ring. That was pretty spectacular. AJ does a great job selling to Edge through this whole match. But then they start getting into this like false finishes every 10 seconds, which is just exhausting and makes you realize how long the match is actually going. And so it ends up slow, and then they both land their finishers on each other, but it doesn't actually end the match, and so that's dumb. AJ's finisher is pretty devastating and crazy looking, and Edge, it's a spear. It's a spear. Great.
Yeah.
Edge has his spear still. But when you look like you're 150 pounds soaking wet, a spear doesn't look like a devastating finisher.
No, I'd say of the three people who use that as their finisher, I think there's probably more. Goldberg, Roman Reigns, and Edge. I mean, I really think Goldberg's is the only one that looks like it could hurt you, probably because
He actually did hurt
so
you
bad
with it.
so bad at wrestling that he actually hurts people. But yeah.
Rhino had a good spear, but I mean,
Oh,
the
Rhino's was a
dude
good one.
looked like a bowling ball rolling at you, so it made sense.
Yeah. He was like 90% quad.
Yeah. I don't understand why this match didn't end in disqualification when Damian Priestley and Finn Balor started fighting inside the ring during the match. Like that's it. That's the ending. That's the finish. That's why didn't you stop
Yeah.
it?
What is the referee there
Yeah.
for?
Now I will compliment Edge on one thing. So he gets AJ into that weird crossface hold. And the way that he got AJ into it, his hair is blocking his face. And Edge moves his hair to the side so that the camera can pick up AJ Styles' facials of the pain that he's supposedly in from this hold. That's a pro move,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that actually makes Edge look better too. And so, because if you can see that AJ is in really bad pain, then that makes Edge look better and that he's more devastating. And then I did like that they turn, spoiler alert, Rhea Ripley is heel now, joining
Yeah.
the stable here. And I do like that because we actually talked about on the WrestleMania 38 show that if you weren't going to put the tag titles on Rhea and Liv Morgan, what the hell are they doing with Rhea Ripley? Now we know they're turning her heel. It took them 6 weeks to get to it, and it kind of comes out of nowhere, or seems like it comes out of nowhere. But it's a good move. Rhea fits well with that, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think the whole her being smiley and happy in a face has not been a particularly interesting move for her. She was so much better as a badass heel. And she's in like black leather and black, makeup, and like that's not
And
a
the
good guy
short
look,
hair and
Like
like the sunken in eye
yeah.
look and stuff, like you don't look like you can be happy and good in that appearance.
Yeah. So that's not to impugn in any way the character of our goth fans, if we have any. I'm guessing we don't have any.
So after that match ends, it takes 10 minutes to get to the next match. What is happening in the arena during like these 10 minutes? I can't, like, there's like commercials. It's actually like commercials running and stuff like that. So I can't imagine that's a very fun live experience. We went to AEW Dynamite and Rampage tapings, and there was no like 10 minutes of downtime between matches. And that includes commercials and promos. Like, what is happening? How can these people be having a good time at this show?
Yeah, I've thought that quite a bit. I've thought that about Raw and SmackDown these days in particular. And I think one of the things we've probably mentioned before is they will introduce somebody, they'll come down to the ring, they'll take a commercial break, they'll come back, there'll be a promo for something unrelated, and then maybe they'll introduce a second person, and then they'll do like two moves, and then they'll go to another break. Like it's interminable, and it's I have no idea how you would sit there and watch any of that stuff. So
I sent you a chart recently that like someone had tallied how many minutes of actual wrestling is on each show. And like Monday Night Raw for its 3 hours came in at like a half hour or something like that.
that sounds
Yeah.
about right.
So like, why are you buying tickets to go see 3 hours of commercials and promos and 30 minutes of wrestling?
Yeah, that sounds awful.
Yeah, that doesn't sound fun at all.
My favorite match of Backlash was actually the next one, which is Ronda
Yes.
Rousey versus Charlotte Flair. It's a championship and title match. It's the more or less the main event. I mean, the last match is, I guess, billed as the main event, but there's also no title on the line, so there's really no stakes because they're also going to fight again every damn week until the end of time. Ronda and Charlotte have some heat building. They've got a clear good guy and bad guy here, and I will say I appreciated this match. I like that they beat the snot out of each other. It was a I quit match, and they kind of took it all over the arena, which sometimes bores me a little bit.
They did
But
a good job with it in this one, I think.
they did. They really did. They kept it going. And some of that shit looked rough,
Yeah.
man. Ronda was on Raw on Monday, and she had bruises like all over her damn body from that stuff.
Charlotte Flair's entrance, like that gear that she was wearing, oh my god, that was fantastic. And like the look that she has and everything like that coming out to the ring is marvelous and a thing of beauty. Like it's so good, and it's very clear that she's learned a lot from her dad here. There's a ton of stuff happening in this match. Her vocals every time she's in a hold, oh god, oh god, oh god.
That's semi-erotic.
They were really into it because at one point, Flair says to Ronda, "I chop like a bitch. Fuck you." And like the mic totally picks it up. And then at another
Yeah.
point, Flair is in some sort of hold, and you can hear her scream "shit!" Like, like the PG era is over when these two are fighting.
I'm kind of surprised they didn't blade just to give a double
Yeah,
birds to the execs.
the WWE just isn't into that anymore, but they should have. That would have been. I was actually thinking that during this match that um, if Charlotte really wanted to go all in, if these two really wanted to go in, Charlotte should have bladed right at her hairline and got her beautiful blonde hair screaming red like her dad.
Yeah, Ric Flair
Yeah,
style. Yeah,
but Rousey's wrestling still leaves some to be desired. She has the same issue that Omos has, is that when she's going to miss, her run is different. So you can tell that she's going to miss. It was clear during this match, when they were in the ring at least, that Flair was putting herself in very specific position to fall victim to the judo throws that Rousey was doing. And, that's fine, but it's still kind of like, come on, Ronda. Come on. It's
yeah,
very clear that you have the ability and the talent to do this. Let's work it. And now they put the belt on her. So where is she going to go and work it? Unless she like pulls a Bret Hart and starts fighting every week on SmackDown to defend that belt, it's not going to happen.
yeah,
I
for
did
sure.
like that at one point they fought in the lap of a fan too. That was amazing.
Yeah, I'd be willing to buy a ticket for that sort of thing. This a little similar to their WrestleMania match, where you can definitely tell that Charlotte is carrying the action, right? Like she's doing quite a bit of the work. But overall, I thought a really solid match. I was honestly surprised by the finish. Did not think they were going to put the belt on Ronda Rousey. It does set up Flair to win it one more time, get closer to her dad's 16-time number. But like you said, I wonder a little bit about where you go with the storyline once Ronda has that belt, right? Like, I guess maybe she just, like you said, just kind of sets herself up as a fighting champion and takes anybody who comes at her.
Yeah, I mean, they had to do it with Charlotte because it's very clear that Charlotte is the best women worker that the company has. I mean, Sasha Banks is talented. We both like Bianca Belair plenty, but none of them work like Charlotte does. And it's this. I would almost want to see like Charlotte fight men. Like she, like how good she worked in this match. She was the best worker on this card this night, in my opinion. And so therefore, this was
Yeah,
the best match by far, in my opinion.
yeah, and she's a legit superstar. We talk about sort of the people that have that extra, whatever that is, that it, and looking at the card here, I think it's maybe like her and Roman Reigns who are sort of the only ones who really
They're
stand
the
out
only
to
ones that
me.
get legit heat.
Yeah, right. And that because I think in a way they're the only ones, well, not the only ones, but they're not winking at it, the way that some of these other people are, right? Like they're sort of. I know that kayfabe is dead, but like they're still adhering a little bit to an older way of doing
Right.
things, where you stay with the illusion, right?
Right. And like as much as I hate to admit it about Randy Orton is the third one in that list. And it's because they're second and third generation superstar folks here. I mean, we know Roman Reigns is from the Anoa'i clan. Kayfabe is running through his veins already. And then to have been trained by like Afa and everybody in his family, he knows what's up. Charlotte is, the daughter of Ric Flair, the biggest name in wrestling ever. I would say that he's better known at this point than Hulk Hogan probably, and is known for being a really great wrestler. She's got big shoes to fill. There's a lot of family pressure there, but also she's got her dad's charisma, and that carries a lot. And then got Randy, who has now been there forever. He's, oh my God, like,
20 years.
and so 20 years of working, plus coming from Cowboy Bob Orton's loins, he's
Please don't say loins.
I mean, he knows what's up, and he I mean, in that match, really, him and Roman are the ones that are doing the best work and the best selling in the 6-man tag.
So just looking at the rest of the card, the other two who were, I think, a step down from those three would be, Cody and Seth Rollins. And I think they're sort of an
Yeah.
interesting contrast because Cody, again, is a second generation, but I think he's sort of made himself a public figure in such a way that that illusion, whatever that is gone, right? Because one, we just seen him too damn much in all manner of contexts and out there, talking about his own dumbass ideas about things.
Yeah.
And then the contrast is Seth Rollins, who is somebody who is tremendously talented in the ring, but who really, to me, has gotten a lot of TV time, but it's all been in this very goofy, cartoonish, I don't know what the fuck he's supposed to be thing, where like you can't really take him seriously as a person or as a personality. He's sort of like a less well-adjusted
Yeah,
Joker.
I would call Cody kind of like a bridge between the modern day wrestlers that are taking a wink at the whole concept of the business and stuff like that, and the old school, right? So, like, he talks about the legacy of his father a lot and stuff like that. But I mean, his father was, deep into the kayfabe, and like if his father was like really, really over him and stuff like that, I don't think you would ever see Cody talking to a heel anywhere, or if he was face, or if he was heel talking to a face, outside of the ring, you would never see that.
And you wouldn't see him doing these promos where he talks about, like, he throws in all this wrestling vocabulary and the forbidden door
Right,
and
and the talking
heel
business and stuff like
turns.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think Cody's kind of a bridge, but like Seth Rollins is one of those guys that came off the indie and the lower rung companies too. So like he's a former Ring of Honor champion, I believe, and stuff. So he's got like that weird cred that way, but he's kind of been molded into the WWE mold. But I think that's probably why him and Cody are working this program on Cody's initial return to WWE, is because they both have kind of similar wrestling upbringings professionally.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, two more matches left on this card. Madcap Moss and Happy Corbin. Again, this bullshit's been going on for forever at this point. I don't care. I appreciate that Madcap Moss wears suspenders with no
That
shirts.
looks uncomfortable.
It looks uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I don't give any fucks about this at
So
all.
I do love that Happy Corbin's source of heat is just the fact that he's happy about his life and people hate him for it. His whole gimmick is that simply that he's happy with the direction his life has taken, and people are fucking pissed at him for that. So that's kind of funny. It's a good stick to like the self-hating humor of the millennial and Gen Zers, of like the super depressing humor. It's kind of good jab at that. Like everybody is angry at Corbin because Corbin's happy. You can't handle it. But this match is so. This is really where I started thinking that it's so sterile. So like this match, the heat between these two guys is their former like best friends and partners who have broken up, and there's serious heat between them. They're angry at each other. Corbin is fighting dirty and like going after his Andre the Giant trophy and stuff like that. But then they come to the ring. There's no hot start. There's no getting in each other's face and trash talking. Like when like Austin and The Rock were mad at each other, they would either have a super hot start or they'd come in and they get face to face, and you'd see Austin shaking his head back and forth, jawing away at him. And there's none of that here. They just like the bell rings and they grapple up, they tie up in the middle of the ring, and they have a wrestling match. Like what? Where's the excitement and the heat? Where's the fight? This is a grudge match. It's not even like a title match between two faces that would maybe start like that. This is good guy, bad guy, and they're pissed at each other, and they're just like, all right, let's grapple.
I know that's how I get my emotions out. Like, let's just grapple with it. I didn't care at all. I don't. Did Happy Corbin won, right? It was sort of a dirty finish.
Madcap Moss won this match. there was an amusing moment though that I particularly enjoyed. Is that the Corbin has Madcap stuck onto the outside like security barrier and is pounding on his face, and there's a guy in the front row right there, dead center camera in the crowd, wearing a Hook shirt. And like you just get like 30 seconds of this guy in a Hook shirt like pointing at the shirt and pointing at Corbin and like just like totally into it. Like, well, there's a free AEW commercial right there.
That's too funny. I'm surprised they let him sit with that down front like that.
I know, make him put duct tape over it or
Yeah,
something.
seriously, make him buy a $80 sweatshirt from the merch stand and put over top of it.
Yeah, go buy a Bloodline t-shirt. Go.
Oh yeah, that brings us to the Bloodline. Jimmy and Jey Uso and Roman Reigns, with Paul Heyman, of course, versus RK Bro, Randy Orton and Riddle, and Drew McIntyre. Again, this match lasts for freaking ever. Like
Yeah.
there were like 8 different times when I thought this shit isn't over yet. And the ending to it makes zero sense. It's one of these. It's something I've noticed is very common now on Raw and the other shows, where the ending just kind of comes out of nowhere. Like Riddle hits a finisher off of the turnbuckle, and then almost immediately somebody else comes in and lands a move on him and gets the pin. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense at all. Like where's the momentum? Where's the drama? It's just like it's kind of like the last match. It's just like now it's time for the sequence of events to happen.
Yeah, and there were moments in this match that I did like, and then there's moments to where I was just like, this is boring. Like, uh the ref was really slow on getting down for all the pins in this match. And like, I'm not even really going to pick at it, but like, it's totally old school for WWE. Sorry, WWE. I got to get used to that again. Ends a premium live event, not a pay per view, premium live event with a 6-man tag with nothing on the line. This card is a Monday Night Raw in 1996, and they talked about the Usos and Roman Reigns like they're the faces going into this match too at the beginning. Like, I still in general do not like Randy Orton, but what would make me like Randy Orton more right now is if now is the time for him to bring back his legend killer gimmick, for him to be like, in my 20 years in the WWE, I ended Ric Flair, and I ended blah blah blah, and I ended Mick Foley, and I ended The Rock, and I end like, just like start going down this list of like classic wrestlers, like Hall of Famers that he's beaten. And I think that would be an interesting run for him to do. And that would be fun to see that partnered with Riddle, because we're already seeing like serious rant, like good cop, bad cop kind of like serious, funny and the straight man kind of setup with Randy and Riddle. That it would be fun to see like Randy like go even deeper into that and be like, I'm the legend killer, kind
Yeah,
of
and
thing.
the next legend on my list is you, Roman Reigns.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I don't understand why Drew McIntyre's in this match. I still think in 6 months Drew McIntyre's going to be all elite. I don't know why I have that feeling, but I do. Even though I would totally support Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns in a Hell in a Cell match at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view
Yeah,
coming up.
they're again talking about being clear when they're running out of things to do with somebody. I think poor Drew
Yeah.
is getting to the end of the rope there.
Yeah. Uh Roman got amazing heat, probably the best heat of the entire event, when he asks to be tagged in, gets tagged in, looks at Drew, and tags back out.
That was beautiful.
That was such a great dick heel move that got the crowd really into the match. That was classic. I actually kind of liked the Michael Cole commentary with Pat McAfee. There was some funny
What?
lines. So they had a little bit of funny exchange. Like Pat McAfee says, there's not going to be enough CBD oil in Rhode Island to help Riddle tonight. And Michael Cole goes, he would need to go to Massachusetts for that.
Because he's a pothead.
Yeah.
We get it.
And then then at one point, like, Roman is doing his like one thing, like holding up his pointer finger, and Michael Cole says, "There's a lot of ones going in the sky in Rhode Island tonight," and then Pat McAfee says, "A lot of the ones are going back at Paul Heyman right now." That was good.
Nice.
But yeah, there was weird things in this. Randy Orton, no cells, a super kick, like he eats a super kick and then RKO's an Uso. I thought Riddle actually reminded me a lot of Macho Man in this match, like
Wow.
his chaotic movements and like the
Yeah.
way he ran up the ropes, ran up the corner to do his flying stuff and stuff like that. And then this match should have ended in a count out. I don't think anybody was paying attention, but at one point, 5 of the 6 participants of the match were outside of the ring for a very long time, and the ref just wasn't doing anything about it.
He's
And no
catching a
one,
smoke break.
right, and no one was distracting the ref either. So I don't know. And then there was no post match heat. They were just brooding. There was no like extracurricular activities or pushing or like you screwed us, we're going to get you again or anything like that. There were just like camera shots of them sitting around. uh,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I think it was very typical, honestly, of sort of current WWE product. It is, again, you sort of get the sense it's just like, here are a sequence of things that are going to happen that have no relation to what has happened before, what's going to happen afterwards. It's just like we've set aside this particular piece of time and we're going to do these things in this time, and then that's going to be over and we're going to move on to the next thing. So it's a little bit like the evening news in that way. It's like, all right,
Yeah,
weather's done, time to move on to sports. All right, sports is done, time for local color. So
like I
all right.
like they're going to unify the tag belts at SummerSlam, I'd assume at this point,
I
right?
would hope so. I
Like,
mean, they keep fucking around about it. I don't know if, yeah,
but like I can't imagine Riddle and Randy being the first like unified tag champions in like 20 years. Like I can't see that. And are they going to eventually like actually just have one belt for Roman, or are they going to keep them separate and somehow do hijinks and split them up again? Like I thought it was weird that like they unified the belts at WrestleMania, but they still haven't like actually just made one belt. Maybe at SummerSlam, Roman will come out with one belt or something, and then that's when he'll lose or something.
yeah. I'm
I don't
getting a
know.
little annoyed by everybody carrying a larger and larger quantity of belts.
Like at some point, they're going to need like a hand truck of the
Yeah.
like even like FTR being AAA champions and Ring of Honor
Ring of
champions. It's
Honor.
like
Yeah.
there's a lot of belts coming down, and then like Scorpio Sky is carrying around 2 TNT championship belts, and it's like, all right, you've spent way too much money on belts.
You
Like
don't need the interim one. Once the
just shut it
interim one
down.
is settled, you don't need it anymore. Put that shit in the
No,
trash. Like,
no.
or put it in a box somewhere. You don't need to carry it around. So, all right, let's leave Backlash
Ugh.
behind.
Yeah,
I'm tired of talking about it. I think we spent more time talking about it than it definitely deserves. If you're going to
yeah.
watch it, I guess I would say watch the Ronda Rousey and Charlotte Flair match,
Be done. Then you're done.
and that's it. Yeah, that's it. Actually,
Read
I
about the
think
rest
that's
of it
enough.
on like CBS Sports or something. Just or just listen to us for the results. You'll be fine.
Right,
Let's get weird.
sparkling commentary. Yeah, let's get weird.
Let's get weird.
We've
Thank
got
you,
a
Nick. Let's get weird.
we've got a we've got a weird one. So this again, not a pay per view, a little bit out of the ordinary for us. Where it says a Coliseum home video from 1993. It is called Smack 'em Whack 'em from the WWF. The box promises slammin' wrestling action, and I think we can say it probably delivers on that promise. So my feeling on this, watching this, and tell me what you think, is it was sort of put out to kind of celebrate Bret Hart getting the title and sort of capitalize on that a little bit and put some Bret Hart matches out there on VHS for all the Bret Hart fans to spend their hard-earned dollars on. Um, but
Yeah.
but but there's some weird shit.
I feel more like this is just like they had a bunch of stuff in their cutting room floor that was like, well, I think this will be okay, and so let's just glue it all together, and let's get the bushwhackers to remodel a house while we're doing it.
That well-known framing device, the Bushwhackers and Lord Alfred Hayes doing home improvement. So that is sort of the wraparound for these segments, and they have these little comedic sections. Those wacky bushwhackers are always playing tricks on Lord Alfred Hayes. He gets himself electrocuted, and looks like he's dead, and they're just like walking around being goofy. He gets some water in the face at one point. There's no safety. There's no safety monitoring. There's no OSHA. It's not a good working environment
It
here.
takes so long for them to get to the first match. Like it's just so long. Like it's like easily a 15-minute segment, I believe, before we get to the first match, and then the first match isn't really worth getting to.
No, the first match is a house show between Crush and the Berserker from Erie, PA. It's just, yeah, it's just, it's a, it's kind of random. Gorilla Monsoon and Lord Alfred Hayes are talking about why Pennsylvania is called the Keystone State and where they can find that big bell. Lord Alfred Hayes seems to think it's somewhere around Erie, but Gorilla, helps him out. Lets him know it's in Philadelphia.
Yeah, and then they
Um,
set up a date to go together. It's like really weird.
Well, it's kind of sweet. Like
Yeah,
Gorilla's gonna show him the Liberty
Sh-
Bell.
yeah. Show them the
So
sights.
the Berserker, interesting note, was the Barbarian in the AWA, who we just saw in that Wrestle Rock '86 show, teamed with Bruiser Brody. So if you haven't listened to that show yet, go back and listen to it because it's a freaking nuts. Um, I don't know. This again, really random. Berserker drops the Crush on his fucking head in a pile driver at the
Oh
end.
God, yeah.
you can you can clearly see his head kind of sticking below the Berserker's legs when he drops him down, and then they even replay it. And
Oh
somehow he glues his spine back together,
yeah.
and Crush gets the win. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, this was a weird match. Crush was way over with the kids. My God, the kids loved him. I mean, I kind of get it. He had a glorious mullet and some beautifully frosted tips on that mullet. I mean, luscious is the only like a Hawaiian rain jungle on his head. It's so
Wow.
thick and luscious. Every like there's this really like weird no cell collisions in the ring to start the match, and then after that every single collision that they have results in someone falling out of the ring. There's an inordinate number of through the ropes and to the floor bumps in this match, and then eventually Crush eats a pile driver, but he's fine somehow, and then he puts his skull crushing grip on the Berserker and crushes his skull, and he
Nice,
wins. Yeah,
as you would expect, or not. Then we go back to the Bushwhackers and Alfred Hayes
and we get
fucking up
a
an old
right mate,
house.
right mate,
Right,
right
mate.
mate, right mate, right mate, right,
So
right mate.
93. Do you think this is before or after they licked your face?
This is about the time they did lick my face.
Oh
I think
shit. Hmm.
this is about the time of the heart attack tour, so that's where that happened.
Rich was licked by Bushwhacker fans. If you
Yeah,
get
yeah.
him a little bit tipsy, he'll tell you the story, but not today.
It didn't even buy me dinner.
Hmm. The next match is good old John Earthquake Tenta versus the Repo Man. This is just another random house show, just one of those generic primetime wrestling banners up in the rafters. No distinguishing marks. You can't really see the crowd too much. It's like kind of dark. Apparently, this one was from Ohio, and it was a day or two before or after that last match. And my source for this, by the way, is historyofwrestlingblog.wordpress.com. They did a nice little write up on the Smack 'em Whack 'em. I think they're maybe the only other people besides us to ever have watched this video.
Yeah,
Well, and Nick, who requested it.
yeah.
Um, so I don't know. So so Earthquake's wearing his red outfit here. So I'm assuming that means this is when he was a face because he was with the Typhoon
Yes,
and natural disasters, right?
yes. And
And
Repo
good
Man
old
is working heel. Good old
yeah,
Barry Darso.
we met him.
Yeah,
We didn't
I
bring up Repo Man. by the
No,
way.
we dodged that topic very much so. Like I just put down that Repo Man was going to die in this match, and then he actually almost does. Near the end of the match, he slips from the top rope, and Tenta catches him. Like it's very clear that that's not what was supposed to happen, and Tenta catches him and saves his life, and then crushes his chest with the earthquake finisher.
Yeah, it was a rough match. Repo Man does this really weak ass clothesline from the second turnbuckle, um, and yeah, it was a power slam, big old elbow, sit down splash, game over. Very unceremonious. So you know what? I never noticed. Going back to Demolition for a sec, watching that special, I never noticed that Smash had a mustache like under the face paint. Um, or I didn't remember that part anyway.
Yeah,
So when he became Reaper Man, he just kept the same stash, which was very,
just cut his hair and
yeah,
stopped doing the
very
face paint.
convenient.
Got a long Ranger mask and tights that have tire tracks on them that don't line up with the top and the bottom, and
Yeah,
went to it.
just like an actual Repo Man.
And got a hook. He got a hook too.
What a terrible gimmick. It's not his fault. I blame
No.
Vince.
Yeah, 100%.
So the next piece on this tape, speaking of things that last forever, is called "Cooking for the Single Man," but it's actually Mean Gene, Mr. Fuji, and Yokozuna at a Japanese restaurant, and Mean Gene is basically just interrogating Mr. Fuji. Well, he's interrogating Yokozuna via the interpretation of Mr. Fuji about how much Yokozuna eats.
And he's
I mean,
passively fat shaming Yokozuna through this entire
that's the whole
thing.
point of the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah. It goes on too long. It initially is kind of humorous. Especially when they're like, so like it's like a hibachi grill kind of place, and so there's this one bit that's really kind of funny where like Mr. Fuji is like, cook more, and the chef is like sweating, and he's just like, I don't know what
Yeah.
else more to cook, and like so he's like chopping up more steak, and like and then he's like, shrimp, put on the shrimp, and like the chef pours out like 5 pounds of shelled shrimp onto the grill, and he's like, make the rice, and like the chef has got sweat running down his face. And so like that was funny, but it's just like every single time it was me and Gene just chiming in. You're gonna eat that?
Yeah.
I could never eat that. Oh my god, you've eaten so much. You ate all this sushi. I don't know about raw fish. It's just like, this is exhausting.
They try to get Mean Gene to use chopsticks, and he has them like backwards, and like it's bad. I'm pretty sure Mean Gene knew how to use chopsticks. Like he traveled a lot. Like also Yoko takes his chopsticks apart and rubs them together at the table, which is considered rude in like Japanese culture. And I know he wasn't actually Japanese.
Yeah.
But like somebody who would not have done that.
Do you think the WWF had a dramaturg? Like, what do you what are you
I
thinking?
don't know.
They don't have a guy researching like, is this proper Japanese culture? No, just make him gain weight, put this silly looking thing on him, and he's a sumo wrestler. Let's do it.
Yeah, he eats like 4 dozen shrimp easily. Like they're just in a giant pile, which is not how hibachi cooking works. The guy didn't throw a single shrimp in anybody's mouth.
No, he didn't make an onion volcano.
That's what I was gonna say. He didn't make it through the choo-choo train. A bunch of horse shit.
He didn't juggle the eggs.
No.
Like I don't. What a rip off. They got ripped off at this
the
one.
worst hibachi chef ever. He deserved to be sweating. I hope Yokozuna like put him in a hold after that.
Like this bit is like 10, 15 minutes long too.
Oh, it's so long.
It's
so
really long. It's exhausting to watch. It's funny for a moment, and then it's just like, okay, come on. Like there's like 30 seconds of good writing for this 10-minute
Well, it's like
segment.
a Saturday Night Live bit. Yeah. Also, the title, "The Cooking for the Single Man," is a total misnomer. So, I mean, I guess technically the hibachi chef is cooking, 5 pounds of shrimp and 40 pounds of rice for a single man, but that's not. Well, anyway, again, talking about this way too much. So we get back into the action. So now we're actually on to Bret Hart.
we got to set up like what is happening here without. So suddenly we just transitioned to Gorilla Monsoon and Bret Hart standing in the parking lot of a random building.
Yeah, I couldn't tell where they were supposed to be. It kind of looked like the Griffith Observatory in LA, honestly.
Right. Like we don't know where they are, but they're just standing out in a parking lot and like Gorilla Monsoon's like, "You're a great fighting champion. We love you, Brett, blah 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 blah." And then Brett like gives this like really awkward kind of like, "Well, I said I would be a fighting champion." Like and it doesn't why? Like why is this here? And like it's out of nowhere too. So like we had like the framing element of the bushwhackers remodeling a house, and now suddenly we have Gorilla Monsoon narrating a special with Bret Hart in a
Yeah,
parking
and the
lot.
Bushwhackers I don't think come back until the very end of the tape.
No, they're gone.
And there's just no transition, no nothing. Um, it's very strange. But apparently, this is the very first ladder match ever, right?
At least in WWF history.
In WWF. Yeah.
Um,
Shawn Michaels is the challenger. He's managed by Sherry. We love her.
oh yeah,
Brett is the champ. There's unlike other ladder matches, there's only one ladder. And it's very clear
yeah.
that this is their only ladder, and they can't have anything happen to it. So, but I really enjoyed this match. It's interesting to watch the beginning of something like this, right? And like we know where the ladder match went, obviously, um,
And you
but it's
see
interesting.
elements of where
Yeah,
it's like the very start of something that's brewing in WWF. Like it's clear. I just want to say that like this is the match that like indicated to me that like this video was not very widely viewed when it came out. Because if any of my wrestling friends in high school, because this came out when I was in high school, had seen this video and seen Brett versus Shawn in a ladder match, we would have been talking about it
yeah,
and
you would have heard about it for
we would
sure.
have known
Yeah,
about it. And I didn't really learn about the existence of this match until maybe a couple years ago, poking around like looking for like old footage of ladder matches. And then it was like then came across that one WWF VHS. It's like most unusual matches, and I believe this match is also on that um as their first ladder match. And I can see why they went with doing this, but Brett isn't exactly the best person to have in a ladder match. This isn't his wheelhouse, even though I think the concept was introduced by him from
I
everything
would
I've
agree. I
read.
mean, I think they make the best of it, right? But it's not what he does best. We'll see what he does best actually later on this tape
Yeah.
where we get him and Ric Flair together. Um, so Sean makes makes the first attempt for the ladder. The ladder is perched up the aisleway, so he sprints down for it. And the first time he tries to climb it, of course, we get the obligatory Shawn Michaels ass crack exposure, which I think
Yes,
must
thank you.
must have been in his contract or something. Like, look, I
Yeah.
get to show my ass crack once per match.
Yeah, every time you're videoing, my ass needs to be visible. Um But like Gorilla and Alfred weren't very interested in the action of this match too much.
No,
They were very interested in the breast tattoo that Sherry has. And speaking of Sherry, you can hear her giving crap to people through the whole match in the background, but you can also hear some kids that are sitting ringside, like giving her the business. There's a like a loud, like several chants of "Shut up, Sherry" coming from kids ringside, which was every time that she talked, which was great. She's drawing heat and she's barely doing anything, which is vintage
yeah,
Sherry.
she was an artist. Also, that's just disrespectful from those kids. Like, come
I
on,
know.
man,
Little shits.
little shits. Um, Yeah, I mean, so as far as ladder matches go, this I don't think this is as good as the one with Shawn and Razor from WrestleMania 10.
No, they have a bit better timing with the ladder in that match, but there's some
Yeah,
good spots in this match. Brett eats a really hard whip into the ladder set up into the corner, and you can hear the crowd gasp. Like that's the first time that they've ever seen someone hit with a ladder violently like that. And all I could think of is like, imagine if you could go back in time and show them a TLC match.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
their heads would explode in terror. Like they wouldn't know what to do. And eventually, through this match, you see that the ladder has picked up some torque and is definitely having trouble standing up, which is makes actually a bit more suspenseful of a finish to this
Yeah.
match.
So Michaels um, gets up pretty close. He's like, almost getting there, and Brett kicks him off, and Michaels gets crotched on the top rope. Sort of a classic ladder match spot, or what will become a classic ladder match spot, I would say. And then Brett can sort of sprint up the ladder and grab the belt for the win. So it was, yeah, it's good. I mean, I'm glad we got to see it again. I actually I didn't know it existed, so I appreciate Nick calling this tape to our attention, so I had a chance to watch it.
So Sean is in transition period here. He's still like so like Sean uses the super kick on Brett, but like Gorilla Monsoon still calls it the reverse crescent kick. And then when Sean does a side suplex on Brett, that's when Gorilla Monsoon goes, "There it is. There's that side suplex by Shawn Michaels." Like Sean is still like not sure what his actual finisher is at this point, which is also an interesting kind of thing to see in his timeline. But yeah, this match was fun. It was a interesting thing to see, and you can see the seeds of the future in this match, which is what I always enjoy that kind of thing. So
Absolutely. So something I would say is not a step forward is this next match. Unfortunately, this is Bret Hart versus Kamala, the Ugandan giant, with both Harvey Whippleman and Kim Chi as his manager there. This is a weird match. I'm not
it's
sure.
it's straight up Slaughter versus Kamala again, but
Yeah.
with Bret Hart instead of Sergeant
But the
Slaughter.
order, why put it on the tape in this order? Like the the ladder match with Shawn and the main event here with Ric Flair are the two big ones, and this is several tiers down. Um, it doesn't
Uh
make any sense. It doesn't
Maybe
build. It's
because it
like
was just like the right length. I don't I don't know.
it
Just
doesn't
like
make any damn sense.
it's not Brett's best match. It's not Kamala's best match. I think it might be one of, did they say that it's one of Brett's first title defenses, possibly? Something like
Oh,
that.
maybe.
Um, so maybe that's why it's in
Oh,
here.
maybe. Yeah, maybe it's chronological. But
But it's not chronological. He doesn't win he is Intercontinental Champion in the ladder
Oh,
match. He is heavyweight champion
oh.
in this
Okay.
match with Kamala, and then he wins the heavyweight match with against Ric Flair coming up. So it's not chronological either. I think it's just because they want to have the spectacle match, and then like your typical match, kind of like bring down the energy, and then jack it way back up when you get to the story of how Brett wins the title in Saskatoon.
Yeah. I don't have too much to say about this one actually. There's
No.
Brett does a standing drop kick that almost gets Kamala off his feet. That part was pretty cool. There's some, Brett ducking out of the way so that Kamala hits his managers. Um, and then Kamala splashes Harvey Whippleman at the end. Uh,
Yeah, and there's a titty grab too.
yeah.
Kamala grabs Brett's tit for a while too. So it's got everything that you see. We don't need to talk about this match again because we talked about it with Kamala versus Sergeant Slaughter,
Yeah.
but now at Wrestle Rock, but now it's just
Yeah.
Bret
So if
Hart.
you want to see Kamala grabbing people by the tit, check out that Sergeant Slaughter match from Wrestle
And
Rock.
even him accidentally, like the ending too, with like them trying to hold Brett down, and like and Kamala goes for the flop and misses and hits Whippleman. It's like everything happened
Yeah.
here. So yeah, it's basically the same
All right.
match.
So we go back to Gorilla and Brett outside of the stadium or wherever the hell they are. I don't know. Outside of the Tim Hortons. I don't know. And to introduce this final match here. Well, no, it's not the final match actually. It should be the final match, but it's not. But of course, it's Bret Hart versus Ric Flair with Mr. Perfect from Saskatoon for the belt. Bret says at the top that he sprained his ankle and dislocated his finger relatively early on in this match. So you can, I guess, watch it and see if you can spot where those things happen. So first of all, this is an awesome match.
Yes.
It's kind of old school. It's like sort of slow and grinding and back and forth, and probably would be considered boring by sort of today's flippy swan dive over the top rope standards, but it's very, again, sort of classical and technical. Rick is selling the knee the whole time. There's lots of comebacks and reversals. I Yeah, one of the things that I noted is, in the same way that we really love to hear JR calling those Steve Austin matches, I really love hearing Gorilla Monsoon call his Bret Hart's matches, because
Yeah.
his insistence on his sort of the technical vocabulary really fits Bret's approach. And also, in the same way that JR is a big fan for Austin, Gorilla's an obvious fanboy for Bret. So
Yeah.
he came up with the excellence of execution, which of course became, one of
Yeah.
Bret's standby.
Yeah, this match is a doozy and a treat, and is the number one reason why to watch this special. Um, I did have one comment, is that they use a MIDI recording, like MIDI instruments, like something from like your 1990s Tandy PC of also Sprach Zarathustra. Like, can they not get an actual recording of that song for Ric Flair? Like, you got electric guitars and drums and synths for Bret, but you can't license or even find a public domain recording of also Sprach Zarathustra to use to introduce Ric Flair. Like, Christ, even like the Jim Crockett Promotions had a real recording of that song. Stop using the MIDI, anyways. Um,
Maybe it's just Saskatoon. Somebody forgot to pack it for the
yeah,
trip or whatever.
it's so crazy to me that this happened at a house show and that they saved it for a VHS
Yeah, it's
release.
nuts.
I guess in modern market this doesn't make sense, but I guess back then, I know that back then in the day, the real money actually came from the house shows, and that the money wasn't really in the TV shows. The TV shows served as stirring up interest in getting people to go to the
But
house
this
shows.
is Saturday night's main event material if I've ever seen
Yeah,
it. You know,
yeah.
they could easily have thrown this
NBC
on one of
prime
those
time.
shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, for real.
Uh, and this match just starts off so great. They grapple, they break up, they grapple, they break up, and then they just stand there, and Flair stares Bret right in the face and goes, "Woo!" Like, it's not even a big loud one. It's just a gentle "Woo!" And oh my god, it's this. Oh, you can see that it gets under under Bret's skin. It irritates him. Oh, it's so good. I thought Bret actually looked a little nervous at the beginning of this match. I don't know what you thought about
Yeah,
that.
maybe it's because he knew that it was for he was getting the belt, or maybe
Yeah.
maybe it's just being there with Flair. I don't know. Um,
I mean, both of those are good reasons to be nervous, because, I mean, you're
yeah,
about to become champion and you're going to take it off possibly the greatest champion of all time in
yeah.
professional wrestling.
But once they get started, man, it's on. Like, it's really, there's no nerves kind of once we get into this thing. So
Yeah, they have spectacular timing. Just as you're tired of like one of them being in control, the tide of the match shifts, and it goes back and forth like that, like 5 or 6 times. And every once in a while, just at the right time, Flair would take a powder out of the ring, and you'd see Bret get irritated, and Flair would just like strut around, get himself back together, and then get back. Like, it was just so good. And like, the crowd was kind of for both of them, but like, they're definitely like pro Bret. Um,
Saskatoon.
they're just telling such a great story, and it feels almost like kind of like a passing of the torch, almost, too, a little bit. And they're just back and forth. And but like, Bret is also working a little heelish. He's doing a little bit of dirty stuff. He's using the ropes for leverage on holds and stuff like that. And it's because like Flair has irritated him enough with like ducking out of the ring a little bit, giving him that little woo, like these little things have finally got like Bret's temper firing, and stuff like
Well,
that.
that's how you piss off a serious technical guy, right?
Right.
You make a joke out of wrestling, and you let your personality get in the way of of the art form of the business, right? And so it's a perfect matchup for that reason. I really like, Brett goes into his his moves of doom. He has that kind of sequence of things that he always sort of
Yeah.
uses to wrap up a match, a standing knee drop, and then a backbreaker, and then the elbow from the second rope, and then that snap suplex. You're like, okay, here we go, we're winding it up. But then Flair backs him into a corner, and chops him. And I love this moment so much. Brett takes his straps down so that Flair can get a clean chop on his chest. Like
Yeah.
he's like, come on, motherfucker. He doesn't say that, but
Yeah, he
like,
calls him out. He just is
yeah,
just like he locks eyes with Flair and lowers
yeah,
his straps. Like, and you don't see Brett use that lowering the straps move very often. It's not
no,
like how Kurt Angle or Jerry Lawler did it like almost every match. When Brett did it, you were like, "Oh
oh
shit.
shit, yeah,
Oh shit, it's on." And whew, there's just so much to unpack with this match. So like Brett does his famous front turnbuckle bump where he hits the turnbuckle with his chest. And a lot of times it doesn't make sense because you see everybody else is able to turn around in time, but for some reason Brett can't. In this match it made sense because Flair actually whips him into the corner from like the middle of the ring. So there he doesn't have as many steps to take. So it makes sense that he runs into it. And so it's like those little tiny technical details that are really putting this match over. And like Flair is like intentionally like covering the ref's view to use a closed fist on Brett's face in the corner. It's all these great things. And Flair though shows off some real moves too. And you see him like uh one that I really noted was that like he does a knee drop onto Brett. So like he drops Brett onto his knee and then without letting go of Brett, smooth right into a figure four on the mat. Like it's all one motion,
yeah. That was a
and
beauty.
oh my god, it's so good. And you can hear both of them vocalizing through this match too, especially Flair. It's it's fun that we're talking about this match and we're talking about the Charlotte Flair Ronda Rousey match that we have. You can see some parallels here. Not saying that Ronda Rousey is anywhere near as good as Bret Hart, but you can see the influence of back and forth here with Rick and Charlotte, and you have Rick screaming, oh God, please no, oh
Yes,
God," you know, and you just hear, "Oh, oh," like it's so good, and then like you hear Brett like grunting with things and stuff too. So they got everything firing on all cylinders here.
yeah.
Oh my
No,
god.
it's awesome.
Yeah.
So Brett hits him with the superplex off the top, and then he gets the sharpshooter, and he's got that baby locked in there. Mr. Perfect's coming up to interfere, but he's not able to get there. And Flair finally taps, and Brett gets the win and the belt. Place goes nuts. 5-star match for sure. If you haven't
Yeah.
seen it,
And
smack 'em, whack 'em. It's just like the box says, slamming wrestling action.
and what I really also loved about this match is that several of the Ric Flair matches that we've seen in the WWF context, the matches are more spectacle chaos, right? This match didn't have any of that bullshit happening around it. This was Ric Flair working in the ring versus Bret Hart working in the ring. There was nothing like with Macho Man where we had Sherry and Elizabeth like causing havoc around the whole match and people flying everywhere. And like, no, I mean, there's something to be said about those matches. They're great, and Ric Flair was amazing at doing those. But this match also showed the chops that Ric Flair has of working like a straight match, and that is just something to behold when you get to see that, and you get to see that with Bret Hart
Yeah, and a
too.
and a clean finish in the middle of the ring. No, they could have easily sort of overbooked that, have Perfect come in, do some sort of angle there, but
Right.
he sort of makes the attempt because he's the heel. He's got to make the attempt, right? But like they don't actually go there, and I think that was great. I mean, that makes it a clean win for Brett, makes him legitimate as a champion. He beat literally the best guy out there to take
Yeah.
that belt.
And Flair probably intentionally said that, like, if you're going to make Brett to be a legitimate champion, we can't have any shenanigans going down. And that's really where that strength comes from in Brett's title reign, is that he beat Flair fair and square right there in the ring. So that was fantastic. And there's some weird commentary through this match too, though. I just have to point out, Lord Alfred Hayes is obsessed with cameraman number 5. He's just constantly like, there's another shot from cameraman number 5. Cameraman number 5 is doing a fantastic job. He's the one that's getting all these great angles. And then at one point, Flair's ass gets exposed as well in a roll up. And Gorilla says, well, we just became X-rated, Alfred. And then Alfred says, we just saw some heavenly body. It's like, oh my, Lord Alfred. Like,
I think Lord Alfred Hayes wants to take cameraman number 5 on a date to Philadelphia.
I think so too.
See his Liberty balls, am I right?
Ring his bell.
Hey yo. See the giant crack. All right. Before we get too X-rated, there's actually so they go back to the Bushwhackers, working on their house. I don't think that house is getting done anytime soon.
It's like, is that the basement of the McMahon mansion or something? Like, what
maybe.
the hell's going on?
Yeah, I think that's the last contractor we hired. That's just. But there's actually one more match. Undertaker and Razor Ramon is on here. And I'm like, I'm watching this tape. I'm like, what the hell? Alfred Hayes refers to Razor Ramon as a dashing, handsome Latino, which is hilarious.
Yeah. So cameraman number 5, we just saw a heavenly body, dashing Latino young man. They do both shit on Bobby Heenan a lot at the start of this match, including saying that your friend Bobby Heenan smells like mothballs.
I think that's weed. I think they smell the weed.
Yeah.
Razor starts by running away, which is probably smart. And then he throws all of the offense that he has at the Undertaker. But of course, the Undertaker keeps getting up. There's actually a couple of impressive moves from Scott Hall here. He does this really badass side slam. Did you see that?
Yeah.
He like freaking picks up the Undertaker and just it was nuts. And then he hits 3, 4, 5, 6 elbow drops in a row. But of course,
and
Paul
all
Bearer,
of them look beautiful.
Yeah, they're great. Yeah,
perfect form on all 6 of them. And it's like, again, give Razor Ramon all the money. Give him all the money. Make him take the vitamins and say your prayers. He's your new Hulk Hogan. Just
such a talent.
Anyway, yeah. But I did think that this match was interesting because Undertaker no-sells like everything in this match. And yet somehow that left room for Razor Ramon to look really good in this match. So it was interesting how a no-sell approach had the ability to make the other guy look
that's
good.
An interesting observation. He gets to do all of his moves. They just don't have any effect. Right. And he does them really well, like you said.
And you see like Razor show facials too. So he gets to express emotion. So like he starts... So like at the very beginning of the match, he isn't scared. He's just standing there. He's not impressed. He's just like bobbing his head back and forth, looking cocky at the Undertaker, like, ooh, spooky guy, And then by the middle of the match, he's showing real frustration on his face. He doesn't understand what's going on. And then by the end, he's just like, you know what? Nothing's working here. And it totally fits his character to just be like, well, screw it. I'm going to leave. And he just walks out of the ring, takes the count out. Like, that's the end of the match. It's interesting to end a 2-hour VHS tape of hard-hitting action with a count out.
An intentional count out, no less.
Right, an intentional count out. But it's an interesting match. And, like, if this match had been earlier on, I would have been like, this was a good match. But it doesn't make sense to put this after Ric Flair versus Bret Hart for the heavyweight title.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, if I were putting this thing together, I would actually drop everything except those 2 main Bret matches and this match, and maybe found some other stuff to throw in here instead. But anyway, so that brings us to the end of Smack 'em Whack 'em VHS from 1993. It also brings us to the end of this sort of grab bag episode of all the WrestleManias. We hope you've enjoyed listening along as we talked about CelebFest 4 and all the cool wrestlers we met, WrestleMania Backlash, and all the disappointment we felt and the smack 'em whack 'em. Again, thanks to Nick for that request. And keep those coming at Twitter at WrestleMania Pod, allthewrestlemanias.com, on email at allthewrestlemanias@gmail.com. And we, love hearing from you, love hitting your feedback. Anything else you want to say before we wrap up, Rich?
I'll see if I can get some of our pictures from CelebFest up on our website here. They're floating around on our Facebook page, so check those out if you want to see Jake the Snake Roberts giving me the middle finger, and Greg the Hammer Valentine showing off his Hall of Fame
Hall of
ring,
Fame ring, yeah.
and me looking overly excited and kind of gross next to Sting.
And me being like a foot head and a half taller than Haku.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted him to super kick me in the chin just to see if he could still do it.
Yeah.
But no luck.
Yeah.
That maybe would have cost extra money. I don't know.
We should have asked Sting to put us in like the Scorpion Deathlock or something like that. That would...
Next time. CelebFest 5.
Yeah. Which I think they've announced October. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, in that case, we're going to sign off for today. So once again, thanks for listening, everybody, and so long.